Georgia, welcome to the Scenic Route podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
Hello, thank you so much
Hi.
for having me.
I'm sure this is gonna be a really great conversation, or we're really gonna go deep into what it takes to kind of like trust yourself and to actually like take the plunge. And I'm sure it's gonna be super valuable for anyone who is kind of like has a decision kind of like pushing in front of them where they're like, no, I'm not really sure, doing pros and con lists, or if you're still in corporate and thinking of starting your own business, this episode's also gonna be super, super valuable. So, Georgia, for anyone who doesn't know you yet, like give us some idea of who you are, like walk us through your story. What were your like big crossroads and pivotal moments?
Yeah, so I am the sort of person who I've always been a dreamer.
Head
So
in the clouds type of dreamer, or
um, you know what? Some people can say that, and I think it's really interesting actually the way that society looks at dreamers and exactly that,
mm-hmm.
like head in the clouds,
Mm-hmm.
puts it in a way as like, oh, don't be a dreamer. You're not on planet Earth if you have big dreams. Whereas actually, if you look at anyone who's ever done anything significant with their life, like they've always been called crazy. They've always been called, how dare you create electric cars,
Mm-hmm.
they said to Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Now look, like, and so yeah, I've always just admired dreamers. I've been a dreamer myself, and so I guess that's helped me to be a little bit optimistic about life.
Mm-hmm.
I went to university and went straight into the corporate world just because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Like I followed the narrative of like go to school, get good grades,
Yeah.
go to university, get a good degree. I studied
Was it
economics.
also parents like your parents were also like, oh, you should do something smart. You go get a good degree and you go work in corporate.
Yeah. Yeah. Although actually to be honest, my parents were all for like they're both business owners. So they
Yeah.
were all for like, you know, start a business, but
Yeah.
they did say, start in a job first so that you know what
Yeah.
you're
Like do it smart.
yeah. Which
Yeah.
in hindsight I wouldn't do that again. So but I
So you
played the
would
game.
skip what would you skip? Would you skip school or would you skip starting out in corporate?
I would skip starting out in corporate.
Mm,
I honestly if I could go all over again, I'd start my business during university.
mm,
However, if I would have done that, I probably wouldn't be doing, well, I definitely wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now because, long story short, I got really burnt out and decided I wanted
mm,
to help the corporate world not be structured in a way that burns people out and treats people like machines. So my
mm.
thing is like, look after yourself, take a step back, retreat back, go somewhere new, go to a new environment and slow the heck down. And that wouldn't be my whole thing if I hadn't have experienced that in
Yeah.
court. So
Yeah, that is so true, right? Like all our stories, good or bad, shape who we are and shape what we do. Um, and I mean, especially the whole like changing scenery. I mean, you've done that quite a bit. Do you want to tell us some tidbits about that?
yeah, so I mean, when I was in my corporate role and I was in like what a lot of people would say is like a dream role, a dream
Mm,
opportunity, and I was earning a lot of money, but I was like, I have no time. Like my time is the company's time. Like I don't have time to spend this money that I'm making or do what I want to do. And it was the freedom aspect that really got to me. And I would just be scrolling on Instagram and I got into the world of yoga and I would see these yogis, like these girls living in Bali and Ibiza and all these beautiful places and be like, how do they do that?
what am I doing here?
I was at my desk scrolling on. I was like, no, really, like this looks like a really good life. And I think sometimes people get envious of those things, but for me, it was just inspiration. Like I was like,
Mhm.
I
What
want to
was
be like that.
possible and not just like, oh, I like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a dream of mine for a while before anything happened, but it was just after the pandemic when I had started my business already. I had that, I guess, freedom to be able to move that I did. I took the leap and I moved my whole life to Ibiza.
Yeah. And so like when you so kind of like walk us through the bits of like you were in corporate, you were scrolling all these yogi images of eat, pray, love retreats in Bali and Ibiza and everywhere. And how did you end up going to Ibiza yourself? Like what were kind of like your thoughts or your steps or your kind of like mental chatter from,
Yeah.
okay, I want to leave corporate. I'm doom scrolling. I want to leave corporate. Holy fuck, I'm actually doing it.
Mm. Honestly, like this is the thing. People think, oh, how did that happen? Was it an accident? Are you lucky? Like, no, it was very strategic. It was very like, I was like, right, this is my plan, and I'm gonna do it. So it's like honestly, an amazing thing that started me off was listening to podcasts because I started
Mm.
listening to a podcast called Creative Rebels, actually, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
you know it. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Yeah. And honestly, like I just was listening to it and I was like, these people are giving me strategies on how to leave my job, basically. And so I used those strategies. I
Mm.
started off with a self-discovery process of, okay, what do I really enjoy? Took myself back through that.
Mm.
I did a lot of discovery work on what I used to like in my childhood and what I'm
Mm.
passionate about so that I could get some direction. And
Mm-hmm.
that took me towards fashion. So I was working my job, and then at night I would go home and I would sketch. And I was sketching handbags because I wanted to create a luxury fashion brand that was sustainable. Because I
Mm-hmm.
thought, okay, what do I like? Fashion. What do I
Mm-hmm.
care about? Sustainability.
Yeah. How
Um,
can I combine those two?
yeah, and I was doing that, and I did that for a while. Like I had a look. I found the sketchbook the other day. I did that for a long time, and it was I turned my free time into something that was getting me towards my goal, into
Mm-hmm.
something that was turning my dreams into a reality. Um, and then it got to the point where I felt like I was kind of forcing the fashion stuff. I was like, oh, do I love it that much to enter the fashion industry? Like, is
Mm-hmm.
that industry I really want to be in? And there was so much that I looked around and didn't like about the fashion industry, and
Mm-hmm.
how they treat their models, how they treat people in general,
Mm.
the sustainability aspect.
Mm-hmm.
A documentary called The True Cost, which really opened
It's
my eyes.
brutal. Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
how even sustainable businesses, like you're putting more products into this world, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to churn out handbags. So
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, okay, I'll just leave it. And I was getting into yoga at the time. My friend said, okay, there's this class is on. It's in London. It's in like a sky view place, and it combines yoga with voguing and
Mm.
dance. And I was like, oh, this sounds fun. So we're like, okay, we'll go. And then I went. I loved it. And they said they've got a training course coming up to train in this fitness class.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. And so I trained in Voga, it's called. And I started just entering this world of creative income and
Mm-hmm.
like doing it on the side of my job. Like my work loved it because they were like, yeah, like you can do these classes at work if you want. And it just worked really, really well just to introduce me to the idea that I could create something and get
Mm-hmm.
right. Um, and then I got really into yoga so much so that I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I planned out in this time. I was like, okay, this is what I'm passionate about. I'm really burnt out, and what is helping me, yoga is really helping me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know more about this, and then I want to bring it to the corporate world.
Mm.
because that was a real problem that I was solving for myself and that I wanted to solve for everyone, and I still do. So it took me a while. I saved up a lot of my income to create myself like a redundancy package. So I knew that like for a solid 6 months I'd have income. And then it took me a while. Like I procrastinated, I wasn't doing it, but then finally I did it, and I booked my yoga training course, and I quit my job at the same time.
Oh, I love this. Okay, I love so many things about this, about your story. Okay, let's unravel. The bit where you're like, I'm super passionate about fashion and sketching, and the moment you're realizing, I love this, I still love this, but I'm not passionate enough to go pursue this. Like, I feel this is such a big permission slip to give yourself, to kind of like, I still love this, but something is not clicking, and it's not what I want to do as a profession. And like your business, even if it feels fun and light, it's still like a profession. It's still what you do, right? And you're still allowed to have hobbies that don't bring in income if you're just doing something for the sake of it. So I really like that you said like, hey, I did that until I realized it's actually not enough to bring me into action and actually like go out and do things. And the other part is that you're really, strategic and like, okay, how much money do I need? How much do I need to save up to kind of like gain the liberty of starting afresh without immediate financial pressure, which again also is a privilege. Not everyone has that, but it just allows you to approach decisions with a much more long-term focus, as when you're like, oh, this needs to make money. This needs to make money. So this is like super smart. Super smart of you.
I got that from like just diving in and like honestly, every single day driving to work, I was listening to a podcast, driving home from work, I was listening to a podcast, driving to meetings, I was listening to a podcast, and just educating myself on other people who'd done this sort of thing before, what they've done, how they've done it. And I promised myself to implement it because I wasn't happy with what I had like my life. I was like, this isn't me. I'm not in this. I need to change it. But I think I can change it.
Yeah. Oh. Bless you. Might leave this in because we're having a conversation. No, but I mean, this is it, right? And that's where a lot of people stop, right? There's so much knowledge, there's so much out there. A lot of it is bullshit, but there's also so much wisdom and truth out there that is really able to transform people's lives. But the thing, you gotta find the one podcast, the one book, the one blog, whatever it is that puts you into action mode. And it's going to be different for everyone. What is kind of like the one that kind of like makes you like, oh, I get it now. I now go and implement. I now go do the thing, instead of just keep on listening to episodes and episodes of podcasts. Unless it's this one, then you just keep on listening. But but it's like really gotta, at one point, you done all the planning, you got all the knowledge. You actually have to go out and do shit. So, and you said one day, after listening to podcasts on your commutes and all, you booked a retreat, you quit your job. What was there kind of like a defining moment where you're like, switch flipped, here's my resignation? Or what was going on, Georgia, at the time?
There were a few defining moments, but honestly, it was a build up. And it was honestly, like I was actually quite happy in my job. I wasn't as aware until it started getting bad. The company was growing. I was part of really the team that made the company go from a small company to a medium-sized company, and so it was a big, like I had quite an influential role on. I knew I was making them a lot of money, and the vibe felt off. I wasn't getting on with how I was being treated as an employee, especially given I knew how valuable I was. And it was like, come on, man, like,
yeah, like, no,
you're changing my pay, like, and I'm like, all I've ever done is like put my heart and soul into this. It just wasn't, it wasn't aligned. And
yeah, there was no reciprocity in it.
Yeah, there started to be moments as well, like that I'd experienced in the corporate world that I didn't like, especially as like just as a woman, I think, as well. Being spoken to derogatory is quite normal in corporate.
Oh God. Yeah. I was like, please, dear Lord, there gotta be a story because, right, like you're like a blonde, attractive woman. There gotta be like these stories where I'm like, I mean, I remember my corporate days. I was like, seriously, like just bugger off, right? Like there were these like, yeah, like you're like a little doll, or it's just like, oh, one, I don't know, in a liberal translated way of like, oh, once you've grown up, you know how we do things in corporate. It's like, well, I don't know. Yeah. So I'm yeah, sorry to hear you also had like similar experiences in corporate.
I think it's just very interesting. I have a lot more compassion now that I know from doing the deep inner work on myself that I have done, and making personal development and coaching and all of the tools that I've experienced in healing. I know that hurt people.
Yes.
And so I know that those men who were in powerful positions in the corporate world that I'd experienced were making my life uncomfortable because there was something very uncomfortable about their life. And I just triggered that for them. I was just a person that they, of one of many that they may have taken that out on, or whatever you want to say. So,
and it's nothing personal per se.
Yeah, and that's it. And there was definitely standout moments where it felt personal, and it was designed to feel personal, and it was an attack. But having said that, I'm in a place where I don't blame anyone who acts like that. So anyone in a powerful role or not who act like that, I don't actually blame them. I think, okay, what has happened to them? What experiences have they had that have taught that they need to do that? You know. But yeah, having experienced that in corporate, it made me want to get out, first of all, but it also made me want to change that narrative and change that script. And ultimately, if people who have been hurt are then hurting people, and this is happening in corporate, like we're not machines, we're human. If there's this slam culture and this culture of like hard-nosed, cutthroat, all of this in business still today, like right now, then there's a reason behind that. And if I can be a part of like changing that narrative behind that and working with the top people to make that switch, then it will be a positive trickle down effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I love this. So there were a couple of defining moments that all kind of like piled up. I always think of like, I always say like, okay, if you take a leap into the unknown, you don't know what's going to happen, but it also doesn't really matter because you know yourself and you trust yourself enough to know I ought to deal with whatever is coming my way. So I don't know. It's maybe we can say the bigger the leap, the more self-trust you got. I don't know. Maybe that's a hypothesis. So what would you say? Were you always someone who put a lot of trust in yourself, or was this something you also like honed in on during all the work you did, or how you see that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. And I would say I definitely had that trust in myself when I made the leap to quit a
Mm-hmm.
main thing. You have to. You have
Mm-hmm.
something like
Mm-hmm.
you don't just do it. You have to have trust in yourself to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But but then like I feel like right now, like that was a low risk thing for me to do, like to quit my job and start a business, because ultimately like I had a skill set that I knew would be
Yeah.
reemployable. So like it was actually quite, in my opinion, low risk
Mm-hmm.
compared to the other things that I've done now and I do today that are higher risk. And I think that is a result of 100% cultivating a
Mm-hmm.
stronger sense of trust in self. And really, for me, it's when I know I'm in tune with my intuition
Mm-hmm.
and my gut feeling, and I trust so much. Like, I just know that it will be fine.
Mm.
When you do scary things, like the more you do scary things,
You're building a muscle.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I love this. Okay, so I mean that was a perfect segue into what are the big leaps you're doing now that feel scarier than leaving corporate at the time?
Um, so I've taken I've taken some quite big leaps very recently and learned a lot in the past year. Because for me now, I mean, I took that leap, I started working for myself and doing all this, and then I was like, okay, my vision really is to build a business that
Mm-hmm.
is scalable
Yeah.
and global. So I turned that into, last year it was when I was like, right, this is a retreats business,
Mm-hmm.
and I turned it into a business and started to create plans to scale that, because I've been running retreats and I was like, okay, this is great, this is fun, but like there is no reliable retreat company out there,
Mm-hmm.
especially none that actually serve corporates and serve CEOs and leaders
Mm.
and
Okay,
families.
so more focused on individuals to, I don't know, do a yoga retreat as a vacation sort of and then go back, but not kind of like as a business. Okay, I'm curious, but not as a like a team building focus, but really actually kind of like as a C-level as an approach to kind of like shift C-level's perspective through a yoga retreat. Am I getting this right? Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, if the leaders of a business or the
Yeah.
founders of even like a startup, if they're starting right, that is bloody amazing. That they're going to be
Yeah.
incredible. But if they can then have these shifts in perspective
Mm-hmm.
that show that they can have an even more profitable and even more successful business
Yes.
if they put people first, if
Yes.
they look after well-being, if they take
Yes.
time off to take perspective, because without faith you can't have innovation, you can't have
No.
creativity.
Yeah. You're just
And
on repeat of what you're doing every day, your routines, little invention
yeah,
are coming from that. Yeah.
so it's bold, and the corporate world probably isn't quite ready for it yet, but they need it. So
Or probably some industries more than others. And I mean, there are bigger companies who are doing it quite well. And I mean, it's really, I feel, I mean, my background is in like mechanical engineering. Like I worked in for a mechanical engineering company, so they were really far away from any of all of that. Um, but yeah, maybe some industries are definitely pushing ahead there.
yeah.
Okay, so what was kind of like the one leap that I don't know, that took the most, shall we say, self-trust or the most believe in yourself to actually do it, to actually decide the way you decided?
So last year, I had a deal with an investor, and it was worth around 4 million, and I turned it down. I said no. And there was a massive build up before. I'd found this property that was perfect for hosting retreats. I'd hosted there before. It was for sale. We put an offer in. There was investment ready to go to support the business to start its own retreat centers, which is still my biggest goal. But something within me during that process, even though money was there ready for me, that I could only ever have dreamed of to support my dream and my business, there was something in me saying, no, this isn't it. Don't do it. You'll regret it. And it annoyed me. I was like, no. And I was in my meditation, like, tell me it's right. Tell me it's right.
Okay, I'm trying to influence my unconscious in agreeing with my consciousness.
Yeah. And what I was getting, it was just solid no. And very interesting. I see you have a Rebecca Campbell card deck behind.
I have both. I have the Starseed and Work Your Light.
Yeah, so I had the Work Your Light deck, and
that's gorgeous.
And I was like, okay, just tell me. No.
Yeah. And then they actually have a no card. Yeah.
And that was the card that came out, and it kept coming out.
No. Wow. Okay.
Trust the niggle. Like, there's something wrong. And I was like journaling about it, and every single thing was
or you're like, oh no, let's just try another card deck to see what's going on.
And just in general, like, I knew something was off, and then something actually happened that really confirmed that for me. And I turned it down. And people, a lot of people, I think, I thought would, they were saying, just take the money, like,
deal with the rest later or whatever.
But then, when I actually shared my story about that, a lot of people who were experienced founders and CEOs were like, you did well turning that down, because it would have caused you such headache. So actually, afterwards, after I'd said no, after I've done the hard thing and the scary thing, that was when I realized, okay, it's definitely the right thing to do. But at the time, I felt sick, like saying I can't accept it. Like, I felt really sick. But I mean,
here it is, the ticket to what I want to do with my business. And you're saying, no, something's off. Listening to your intuition and let it guide you. Although, you're physically feeling sick almost, right? Because you're like, no, I actually no. And still doing it. This is really, really strong.
Yeah. And I think since I've done that has like leveled up my ability to keep these decisions, because I'm like, well, I turned down all that money in that beautiful retreat center thing. And it actually, like, has been really positive since. And I noticed myself getting a little bit comfortable. So I'm now in Ibiza, and it was so challenging to move unless you've moved your life to another country. Like, it's hard to understand what it's like, especially when you don't know the language. So it was very challenging. I was doing it all actually just fresh out of a breakup. So I was heartbroken, moving out of my old flat with my ex, and just like crying, and then just taking everything to Ibiza, like trusting that everything is going to be fine. And now I'm at a point where I'm like so happy in Ibiza. Like, I have my community, I have my home, I have friends, my work is great here. And I was driving along, like looking at the hills, so grateful, and then I was like, I'm too comfortable here right now, so I've got to change that. And so I booked myself a ticket to Mexico City, and I'm just going to go there and see what happens. Like, I have no plan, just other than to just be there, work there, maybe go to South America, Costa Rica, those areas,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that by changing my environment, I will grow, and by taking risks, I will grow, and good things always come from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
like making myself practice what I preach. I think that's really important.
Oh, okay. So when are you starting out in Mexico?
I fly in 11 days.
Oh my God, this is so exciting.
I'm not moving now. I'm just going for like
Yeah.
5
Okay.
days.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've never done solo traveling that way before. Like I remember
Okay. Yeah.
I drove from London to Ibiza with all my things in the back of my car, which was like a big solo travel experience.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. I love a good road trip.
Yeah, and it was just the first time I'd ever done solo travel. But now I feel so comfortable with Europe that I was like, I need to go somewhere that's so new and that I know
Mm.
I feel like scared, like
Mm-hmm.
comfortable to go to. So
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, there's this. I don't know. I feel like some of my best stories are come from like solo travels. I don't know. I feel they're always
yeah,
making such good stories. Like it's
where's
because
your
you're just open and you're like, I don't know, no plans, just kind of like see
yeah,
what's coming and kind of like let yourself be blown into different directions. And I don't know. I always felt that they were really great
yeah.
stories.
Where's your favorite place that you went to solo traveling?
Solo traveling. Ooh. Um, I gotta say Japan.
Oh,
Mm. Because it
my
was just so ugh. I mean the culture and the food, it was everything. It was like amazing. And it was just like a super comfortable travel experience. It was
oh,
just really like you could go anywhere by train. They have these like really cool like luggage services. Like this is a symbol with a black cat, and you could just drop. You can at the hotel. You just tell them this bag has to go, I don't know, to Tokyo into this hotel, and they come pick it up and deliver it to that hotel, and you don't have to like schlep your big luggage around everywhere. It's like amazing. I'm like, oh, got it. Like just like all these kind of things where I'm like, I love it here.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna get that in South America, am
Probably, I don't
I?
know, probably not. But yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
yeah. Oh, that makes me want to go. Ugh, makes me want to
My
travel. But
my
that's
best
that's a
friend actually, she's going in March.
oh, is
Yeah,
she?
on her own. Yeah, so I'll tell her that you went. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Tell her to look for that black cat thingy because that was really a game changer. And like I didn't know about that because I don't know. I do some things when I travel. We're getting slightly off topic, but anyway, that's fine. Like when I travel, I do some prep work. Like to I mean, some things require some planning ahead. Um, and but I didn't really plan all that much how to get from A to B. And I remember I was on the Shinkansen on that fast bullet train from Tokyo to Kyoto. And it was almost the only, like me and all the other tourists had these massive suitcases, and everyone else just had like no suitcase. And I'm like that, people gotta have suitcases. What is going on? And then I met someone at a cafe where I went a couple of times. And then I don't know, I just asked her, like, what's going on? Where's the luggage? Like, do Japanese people all just have like teeny tiny things they put in teeny tiny suitcases? And she's like, no, we have that, whatever its name was, service. And I'm like, oh, that is super smart. So yeah, I was like, okay. So way back from Kyoto to Tokyo, I was booking that luggage transportation service too, because I'm like, and then it was so comfortable. You were just like with your teeny tiny bag, you were just there, like, oh yes, I know how to travel in Japan.
A good tip. And you know what? I don't think it is off topic because that's something that like honestly,
We're on the
with
scenic road. Nothing is ever off topic.
and it's just been like travel and like changing your environment is something that's been so pivotal, like in every move that I've made. Like
Yeah.
if I can change my environment, like something good happens from it. Like being able to broaden your mind just by changing your location is
Mm-hmm.
like, I even, because I'm quite geeky on this sort of stuff, I even did some research, and there's so much research to show that like changing your environment actually changes the neurons in your brain. So your brain
Mm-hmm.
can actually create more neurons if you're in a new environment than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
You, and so you're actually like, of course, inspiration's gonna hit when you go for a walk.
Yeah.
You know, of course that's gonna happen.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
When you go
exactly.
somewhere else.
Yeah. And you don't have to travel. And yes, like traveling to Mexico or to Japan is one way of doing it. But you can also, like, next time you go to local shop, maybe you always go right, and then maybe you turn left and do a little detour, a little scenic route to the shop. Like just small things that kind of like break the rut are incredibly helpful to kind of like stimulate neurons in your brain. Be like, oh, ooh, something new is going on. Got to pay attention.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, I thought like you mentioning kind of like the geeky bit. Um, that brings me to something that you have for our listeners to share is your decision making framework. Do you want to tell us a bit about it? Because I love it. I'm like, yes, gotta run that next time I go.
Yeah.
Gotta add that to my tools of how should I make this decision.
Yeah. Well, so this is it, and it was inspired by these big decisions that I've made, but you
Mm-hmm.
can actually use them in like smaller decision making throughout your life, like anything.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it's really created to make sure that your decisions are allowing you to grow and go towards a direction that you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's essentially a framework where, you know how in magazines you could see those like little yes, no, I can do.
Yeah, these flow charts
Yeah,
thingies.
it's like that's
Yeah.
it's a flow chart. Um, so it's either saying go for it or maybe don't do that, and you can choose. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would say just like print it out and have it by your neck or something. And
Or like print it out in like a postcard, laminated and have it in your purse. To like, wait, hold
wow,
on. Yeah, right?
well said. But like just having it out, like and just
Yeah.
being look at it and refer to it, like you'd be surprised how many times like in daily life you're like, what do I do about that? And then you can look at it and you know it's a way to build up trust with yourself as well.
Yeah, and to like, especially if you're new and really leaning on intuition, it can help you
Mm,
guide yourself, right? Like you have prompts and you're like, oh, okay, prompt, listening in, tuning in. Oh, actually, no, okay. Do you want to know what one of my favorite tools to make a decision is?
go.
I flip a coin, but here's a twist. I say, well, head is I do it. Tails is I don't do it. Then I flip it and then I see what's coming up. If it's like tails, I'm not going to do it. And I feel relieved or disappointed, I know what to do.
Mm.
So that's one of my favorite tools. But yeah, so it's kind of like flip a coin. I feel silly, but just the
No, I
instant
like it.
reaction that you
Yeah.
have of like the decision that has been made for you. That's the cue.
Yeah, I really like that. I've done a similar thing. Another thing I love to do is pick a card. Yeah, good, really good for decision
A
making.
classic. Yeah.
What do I do? What do I do?
Classic.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's, yeah, just kind of like give you an idea of what is coming. Yes. And pull a card is a classic. Never underestimate a classic.
Mm. And this is the thing, I think, like, I don't understand why we feel like all our decisions should be made by other people so much. Like,
Mm,
you're the one that knows. Like, we are more intelligent than we know. And when we're
yeah.
constantly asking other people's advice and asking what other people think we should do, like honestly notice that that's something that I keep practicing now is like, am I Like, am I asking what someone else would do and doing what they do because I can't make my own decision? So yeah, there can be value in asking what other people have done and gathering up your evidence and so on. But even so, don't take that as gospel. Like, think about what
Yeah.
you do, you know? I think too many people spend their lives like making decisions based on what the room is saying, based on what they know
Yeah.
is right.
Yeah. Oh, this is generally such good advice in the online business world as well. I think like don't whatever guru you listen to or Instagram famous business coach you listen to, whatever, like if don't ever like listen to them, listen what they learn, what they teach, but never, it's not gospel. I love that. And also like it worked for them, it was their story, it was their way of doing things. And I love that you said like be honest with yourself and ask like and look at where what is your intention. Is your intention of like, oh, I'm curious how this person did it, just like story, like, oh, I'm curious, like how did I do that, that sounds cool, or like, oh, I hired this coach so she can tell me what I should do. It's most likely not gonna work ever. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Oh God, I feel there's yeah. I mean, there was so much. Ooh, I'm still marinating in that. Like, it's really just trust yourself enough to know everything will be all right, that you got this, and be open to learn along the way. Right? Like it sounds so simple. And it can be really hard.
Yeah, it can be challenging, of course, but then where's the fun
But
in that?
that's
It's
yeah,
not challenging.
exactly.
And we
Exactly.
can
Where's the
make
fun in that?
of our lives. And I think like it comes easier, this whole trusting in yourself thing, if you're giving yourself the space and the time each day.
Yes.
Cultivate that, you know, like
Yeah.
learn how to meditate, go take a yoga class, go do something that you haven't done before.
Yeah.
Like try new things, create time for you, do things you enjoy, whatever it is you enjoy.
Yeah.
So you have the space to trust yourself.
Yes. Agreed. That's a very lovely word to end it, because this is really true. Just try new things. If we can leave you with one message, try new things. Georgia, where can people find you online? Where you hang out, so people can reach out?
So the main way to find me is through my business, which is Sancti, which is SANCTI retreat. That's the easiest way to find me. It's just Google Sancti Retreat or my name, Georgia St. John Smith, on LinkedIn. On Instagram, it's the same. And
we're gonna link all of them.
Well.
Oh, very good. We're gonna link them all in the show notes, so you can have a look and go hang out with Georgia online, and also download the decision-making framework. And before I let you go, I've always had one last question. What book are you currently reading, Georgia?
Oh, I'm currently reading 4.
Okay, hit me.
I'm reading Hero, which is by Rhonda Byrne, but who wrote The Secret.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah, me neither. But...
oh, it's what it's like. It's got the word fuck in it. I can't. The subtle art of not giving a fuck.
That's that's a goodie.
Yeah, so they're my 2 main ones. I can't off the top of my head remember the other 2 that I'm reading.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm same. Right, I'm like, oh Jesus, like what like the one, just the recent one I opened.
Yeah, Hero and The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yes, that's a good one.
Oh, I recently read The Alchemist as well, which was amazing.
The novel, Pablo Coelho's. Yeah. This is such a lovely story. Yeah. It's about the journey. That should actually maybe be like a mandatory read for the scenic route podcast or something. Because it's all about really like taking the scenic route and returning
I
home.
love that.
Yeah. And we're gonna add all of those to the scenic route book list, book recommendations site. So have a look. Well, Georgia, thank you so much for spending time with us here on the Scenic Route podcast. It was an absolute joy.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.